I read a piece that was like you had no formal art education and you first laid hands on a canvas in 2017. So I'm really curious, like out of everything you could decide to paint, why did you decide mysticism, the psychedelic realm, and venturing into more sort of spiritual things?
Thank you. Thank you, Jacob. Yeah, at the beginning, the mysticism and slash esoteric practices um, was the way how I use art to communicate. The art is one of the languages, personally for myself. The best languages I felt could be used to interpret it invisible. So at the beginning, it was mysticism, mystical art, or whatever people call psychedelic art. Over the years, I re-identified myself, or mostly I rediscovered many other things that my mystical practices, my mystical art, psychedelic art has a lot of science in it as well at the same time. And I've been doing this since, as you mentioned, since 2017, which is already over 8 years. Um, And over this 8 years, it was a great journey. I make art every single day. Even when I do not paint, I still make art, because of the best ideas first comes in, towards your invisible consciousness, which is not, and only then you lay those on a canvas or on a sculpture. So now I more re-identified myself into scientifically mystical art because for us, in order to see the reality in more true color, if there is a true color, you know is seeing the coin from the both sides, seeing the light and the dark, seeing the good and bad, and all the shades of it. So the start was very mystical, but over the years I was fascinated by science, and I was fascinated by science since the childhood. So the nature is my education, my greatest teacher. And as any scientist or any mystic who ever walked this earth, I believe paid attention and found a lot of answers, paying attention to the under the feet or in the sky, which is paying attention to the nature.
I'm really interested in like your creative process and like theories of creativity and what it means to be an artist and all of that. But before we go into those more abstract topics, I think we should ground this conversation in your personal story, right? Because everyone starts in life the same, right? We're a baby and we're very fresh to the world, right? And I'd love to know some of the key moments on that story arc, going from you as a child, as a teenager, whatever, to being like a non-psychedelic user and a lack of awareness of this world, to the person that you are now, doing what you are now, interested in things you're interested in now, and yeah, what are the key sort of experiences or influences that molded you in this particular direction?
Thank you. Yes, of course. I will try to be very short on that because, as you know, the time is limited, and to suppress over 30 years of life experience in a really quick boom. Let's start it. As far as I remember myself, in the age of 6 years old, um, my first books, which is I laid my hands on, and for some unconscious, subconscious reason, I was curious to read. It wasn't books about the animals my mom was trying to offer me to. Hey, this is what you have to pay attention to, But I spent my summers in my grandfather's house. It's like a village, nature, all those type of things. So my grandpa, he was a healer in some way. And I was curious to steal books from him because he had a bunch of, he has like a library in his room back then. And I was curious what he has on the higher shelf, on the top of the shelf of the book. What is those books? So I was stealing them and I was reading those things. I was not really knowing what I am drug myself into. So instead of learning about animals, and like things which is child should, I was possessing my consciousness more with questions about philosophical questions, like who are you? What are you doing here? What is going on with this planet? And then I was started being passionate about the magic and mystical practices and quantum physics and quantum mechanics and psychology and everything what I could lay my hands on to try to actually answer those questions. What is happening here? What is all of this about? What I have this experiences, there's all these people around me. What is the reality about? So I was reading anything what could somehow bring me closer to some kind of answers, which is to the answers which is I was searching for. This is the one point. After that, I'm from Ukraine, so I'm from Ukraine, and my parents still there. I grew up between city and smaller village, and I, in the age of 12, I became a member of Moscow private scientifically mystical organization. It's called Ecology of Thought by L.P. Troyan. I've been there part of for 4 years. I've been 12 years old. I want to mention that. And there is people who usually been members of that organization as elders. It's like 60 plus, and there is me and my brother, my friend, who was also very passionate about like crazy subjects of life, which is people usually curious about closer to their late stage in life, so I kind of started from the back, from the end, so I've been a part of that, which has truly impacted my consciousness and my evolution as a human being. Also, I was really interested in entrepreneurship at the same time, so because I've been in a small village, I was reading people's biographies a lot. I was curious how someone was able to achieve a certain level of success or certain level of knowledge. So I was picking up biographies of a bunch of successful people and just was like a sponge, reading everything what I could. Because I had a little difficult childhood. Um, my my mom and dad get divorced when I was 6 years old. So it took me on the path of become a grown up man super early. So I had to be a man for my mom, for her, and she was 7 days a week. I could not ask her for financial assistance and help, so I had to figure out how to make money very early in my age. Then when I finished the high school, I choose to study in aerospace university in Ukraine in Kharkiv. I used that university for a program, which is United States enrolled. It was cultural exchange program. Visa existed. It had a name J1. So on the second year, only on the second or a third year of education and university, you're able to apply it. And if you smart and good enough, you flew to US for 4 months and, you kind of work here, you travel here. But my plan was come and stay, to be honest. But why I did all of that? Because since the early childhood, I had a stream of visions or very, very vivid imagination, which is, I've seen things which is look so real. Is this reality? That's also was one of the points why I was questioning everything around myself. I was questioning reality on at the same time. So in the same time, that's why my desire to study this not typical, not traditional practices at the same time.
I just want to jump in quickly here. Could you, because this is a very interesting point, could you describe what those visions were? And, were they when you were a child? And how did you interpret those as a child? Because I guess before you get to a certain age, you might not even realize that that's odd. It's just your experience.
Absolutely. You are 100% correct, man. And I had a bunch of different type of visions, but when they came, when I was possessed by them, let's call it this way, back when I was a child, that was very uncomfortable. It felt painful. It felt that my consciousness being taken away from my physical vessel and was dragged somewhere else. So I've been in two places at the same time. Let's say 10% of your self-realization here in your physical form on this planet, but 90% temporary goes somewhere else. That's how it felt. And it felt extremely disrupting. It felt uncomfortable. It feels sucks, So, and of course, I fucking cried back then. I just didn't know. So my mom started bringing me to shamans and to Eastern European healers. Like, yeah, we have to help him out, but not really anybody could figure out what is going on. That's the life journey, right? That's on you already to figure out. What the visions was about? Well, I've seen all kinds of stuff. I've seen now I would say, because I understand a little bit more, I almost seen the fourth dimensional spaces, very complex, imaginary or realities which could be invisible on this plane of existence. Or they can be visible in certain mystical practices or during the certain psychedelic experiences as well. So that happened to me without knowing anything about the psychedelics or the medicine, or it was natural and organic. And the visions was, I've seen destruction of the world, and it felt not nice. And I also have seen, to be very sure, like existence on other planets. And once again, everything what's happening is a great mystery, and we don't really know. But that was realistic enough for me to see that and experience that, and then over the years become an artist and finding oh, hold on a second, so that comes in from that source, what I'm making now somehow connected to that realm, but I learned how to manage that and learn how to navigate that space.
Wow. It just blows me away how you went through this intensity at so young. And it's like I get a feeling, and I'd wonder if you'd agree, like why you think this is the reason that you're on this planet for. Because I recall a kind of quote that I'm going to paraphrase from Terence McKenna about him sort of saying, we need people that can go into the psychedelic realm, take the wisdom, and then communicate that with the average people. And Terence obviously goes, well, I can't paint, but it'd be great if others can, and we can take the wisdom. So I'm interested in the way you kind of think about this. Like, do you think like you are put on this planet for that job, and why? And yeah.
I think this is excellent question, Jacob. I believe I choose to live a self-realized life. So I am quite self-realized human being, walking this earth, hopefully knowing what I'm doing.
Can I
Hopefully.
just jump in because something's
Go
hit
ahead.
me? How would you define that term self-realized? Because I have my definition, the people at home might have theirs, but I'm interested in what that means for you.
To be very simple in words, self-realization for me personally means is understanding what are you doing here, consciously acting, choosing the words, taking actions every single moment you possibly can, hopefully learning and hopefully being the best version of yourself. Of course, not to say a superhuman being, not a hero, but at the same time live in your life purpose. This is the self-realization for me, in very short human way to explain. So Um, Jacob, repeat once again, please, so I can
Yeah.
connect the.
How do you think about your purpose being to communicate the lessons from the psychedelic experience to the average person that looks at your gallery? Like, do you think you're on this planet? What's your relationship like with the thought that you're on this planet for that reason,
Mhm.
and why?
Yes, this, as I mentioned, this is excellent question. I think one of the endeavors, hopefully, of every single person on this planet is self-realized your purpose, right? And how do we do that? It's such a subtle energy. It's almost impossible to teach. And it's such an abstract um question, invisible to interpret that, but in the same time, we all facing the same door one day when we ask ourselves, what are we up to here? What are we doing? What is our purpose? For me, I've tried, humanly speaking, I did a series of experimentations over the years. Sometimes I was had expectations. Oh, this is something, I've been in music before I became an artist. Music was one of my first passions, my creative expressions. It was beautiful. I was 15 years old back then. I've been on a stage. I've been working with sound production studios and working with microphone for a long time. But that connection to the music over the years was, um, let's say, I lost it. It was I lost connection to this place inside of myself. So I had to redefine and refine myself once again. I traveled to United States in the age of 20, and I still wasn't an artist. I had no idea that, I'll turn to be a painter, a sculptor, and then facilitator for immersive experiences. And I found that in 2017, I was 24 years old. In that time, once again, I had no idea that this is I'm gonna meet my higher self. Let's call it this way. That I'm gonna encounter and connect to the, if there is a word of divine, uh, of a teacher of you, almost to the universe, to the source, to the Akasha records, whatever the mystical words could be used, or to higher wisdom. Um, that happened when I first time laid my hands on a canvas. I started doing that every single day, and over the nights I spent in my studio making art, I was almost like being self-taught by higher force. It felt like I'm encountered the knowledge from the past lives. I'm sounds very controversial right now, but that's hard to describe because we are touching metaphysical subjects right now. And my friends was looking at what I'm doing, and it's like, how do you how could you like not paint and then suddenly start painting? Like, what happened? And I was asking this question myself every time I finished a painting, and I was about to start a new one. I could not believe I'll make it, and then suddenly something happens, and I was, it was a final product. It was looking mind-blowing for my own self. It blew my mind till nowadays. Now, of course, I can teach, and I do teach. I give talks in my space, and of course, I support other artists or entrepreneurs at the same time. So I became more self-realized once again using the same terminology. So over the years of you walking this path, the love towards something what you do, that deep, that overcomes any suffering, any pain, it overcomes happiness. It overcomes where you are in life. It overcomes um, any struggles. That you happy or not happy to return to your center, return to your source. For me, it's my art. I paint every single day, and my partner is in a different side of the building right now. She sees me all the time. She's like, "Hey, Alex, we have to eat. It's time. Stop, stop working. Let's go. Like, bring me back from that realm. Bring me back. Okay, time to live life on this planet." Kind of. So answering on your question is, it took time to self-realize myself, to self-realize your purpose. And it took time to experiment, to have numerous of trials, rise and falls, and almost to prove myself back then that this is what I really want to do with my life. But it always felt like it's beyond me. It's always felt that it comes in from some higher space and place, which is I almost cannot resist. It always felt like I'm here to do this. This is what I'm gonna spend my lifetime on.
So I'm a psychology student, right? I'm at university at the moment, but I also learn I learn more than in my degree from this podcast and the people we speak to around psychology, philosophy, religion, all that kind of stuff. And I love it when something I've read recently or something I've read in the past reemerges in conversation with somebody like you, right? So have you read or heard of a book called The War of Art by Steven Pressfield?
I'm actually not. Nope.
So this is perfect. This is perfect. I feel like it'll resonate and land with you like really, really well. He has this idea of the muse, right? And it's based on like the mythology of the muse, which is like often a female who inspired like heroes. But in this case, the muse is a metaphysical being that inspires creatives. And the muse is like the let's call it the creative force in the universe that you have to almost worship every day through the ritual of your art. And the muse is the source of inspiration. And for people that listen to that and it sounds like abstract and they get cynical and think, well, what's the evidence for that and anything like that, right? I'd ask them, when you're inspired, did you choose what inspired you? Did you choose how that inspiration manifested in your mind or your behavior? My argument sways towards no. It is almost like inspiration possesses you. And that is what this idea is based on. And the role of being an artist, which is where, my questioning comes in, whether you resonate with this, is to show up every day and pay your respects to the muse. And in return, whatever creative forces are going on in the universe possess you and give you the ideas and the motivation and the drive to create the pieces that you do. Does that land for you?
I think it's a big part of it. Absolutely. First, you've been chosen. You've been chosen. This is, for me, this is almost like that happened. I was living my life doing whatever, and also uncovering art was unexpectedly. I was hanging out with my boys in Queens, in Astoria. It's a neighborhood here in New York. And I felt bored just to look at my phone and ask my friend, hey, do we have a canvas and extra paint brushes, So he lent me some. And I'd start doing something very subconsciously, like totally playing as a child from the point of curiosity. But it felt very meditative. It also felt good enough for me to return to do it again in a week, and then in a week again, and then go buy art supplies and start doing it every single day. And then I found myself in this small electrical room in my first art studio, which is burned out in fire in 2020. Every single night. And then I'm seeing, and I've created a series of work. So, and also visions came through to me, which just showed me that this is how I kind of have to go with my life. So first, it starts as you just shared. It felt like it's being channeled on top of your consciousness, on top of your head. It's like this drop, divine, and like something like you just was like, like flying through, and then boom, now everything has changed. And then, okay, you I call it a gift. So you was gifted something significant. Here it's already up to you. I believe for the successful endeavors to be achieved and is point of relationships is matters. So be chosen as one thing, but also to choose back. Consciously choose back what you do.
Well, that's interesting, right? Because that also links to the themes in the very same book, right? Because he brings in another concept that he calls resistance. And I guess that can be synonymous with like procrastination or lack of discipline or laziness. But he said the muse will not just possess you and you'll create work out of your control. Your contribution is to show up as regularly as you physically can as an artist, and that's where the work happens. You know, you think about the novelist that fights through writer's block in inverted commas, where it just doesn't seem to flow. The showing up every day, choosing back, to use your term, is how you earn the inspiration that comes. Sometimes it comes in dribs and drabs, and you might have a dry spell for a month, but then suddenly you have a dream, you have a vision, you see your next work, you see your next plot line, you see your next line in a poem, and you put pieces together, and it's the commitment, the choosing back is where you earn the inspiration. I think that's a really great message that actually people can take away and action into their lives.
It's
It's the
very.
art of notice.
Go ahead, Jacob.
It's the art of like noticing,
Mm.
having that like antennae to allow messages to come in you.
Yes, to be the channel. Open yourself up to be the channel, 100%.
Absolutely, guys, 100%. And in the same time, when you're choosing back, you do this consciously, not because you have to. There is a point of responsibility comes in, but also by choosing back again and again and again, you opening this portal so wide that you don't need to anymore work for it. Honestly, um, I can paint anywhere, anytime. I don't believe in artist struggle. I don't believe that there is an artist block exist. And one of my theories why is that why I never faced artist block for 8 years. And one of the fears is actually what you guys just mentioned is consciously coming back, being chosen, but also choose back, show up every single day. Depending, doesn't matter what's happening in your life, happy, sad, you show up, and you show up with love, consciously, right? If you don't like what you do, please stop it. Just this is something we're not talking about. If you don't, if it doesn't resonate with you, don't force yourself. The world, the universe has so much to offer. The endeavor is to find what's resonate with you. Your heart do knows. The mind might question it, but your heart, the feeling inside of your solar plexus, is definitely tells you this is what you're here to do. This is how it happened to me. So by showing up every single day, by choosing back, by being chosen, by receiving the visions, ideas, and bringing those invisible force and make it visible for others, you almost build in relationships. It becomes like this divine sacred relationships with this invisible life force, with the creative spirit itself. So when you constantly show up, spirit trusts you, you know, and you anymore, everything what you have to do is just show up, live your life, enjoy, do all the human things and so on. But this is where probably all the artist blocks, struggles goes away, because you're gonna be filled with ideas. You will have no. You know what's my problem? My problem is the fourth dimension, which is time. That I feel like there's not enough time in a day. I wish I would accomplish more. I wish during this lifetime, hopefully, I will able to manifest, execute everything I came here to do. It's not even up to me in some way, but this is what I hope for. And there is a plenty of ideas, plenty of visions, plenty of projects is waiting for you. So
I wonder if you'd agree with this, Joel. It's like when you're so engaged in your passion, it feels like what you're working on, it isn't you doing it, and that you're just the meat vehicle, that the source can go through you onto the painting, onto the sport, onto the game you're playing.
100%. I mean, for context, Alex, I'm an athlete, right? And I play at quite a high level. And when I'm in competition, there is no time for conscious me, the ego consciousness, the person talking to you now. There is no time for me to regulate my body and my behavior in that competition environment. The way I sort of philosophize it is that my training possesses me. So the work that I've done over a series of years, and then for that specific competition, a series of months, is in order to lay down a foundation of skills that then take over when it comes to competition. And I built like a theory about this a couple months ago, that then in competition you don't have to put pressure on yourself because it's not actually you doing it. You as an ego consciousness, you're not the one competing. You show up every day and train, but when it comes to the moment of pressure, the moment of where it matters, you can let what you've done previously just take over and flow with the moment. It's sort of a Mr. Miyagi wax on, wax off type mentality. But yeah, really, very true, Jake. And I think I want to just linger for a moment, if you don't mind, boys, on this idea of choosing back. Because not only do I think it's super relevant to your story, Alex, as you've mentioned, but I think it's relevant to everybody, right? Even if you're not an artist, even if you don't think that a creative path is your path in life, right? I do feel like, and I wonder if you'll agree, that things and circumstances outside of our control nudge us in certain directions. So that could be the off chance that you met somebody one day and then they become a friend or a mentor and they help you make decisions. Or you're born with a certain talent in a certain field, or with a certain interest in like maths or biology or chemistry, or you love music or whatever it is, right? Things, there is this like the universe choosing you, right, to go down this certain path. But choosing back is the way that you like you said, Alex, take responsibility and make use of that door opening. It's like the universe choosing you opens the door, and you choosing back is your ability to walk through the door. And I think about it for myself, the fact that I was born in the circumstances that I were, that led me to discover the sport I did and get to this point where I can do it full time now. That was I was chosen to do that. I was put in those circumstances to make those decisions. But choosing back is my discipline to show up and train, and to commit to this craft, and to develop my sports psychology, and try and be a good teammate and a good player and all of that. And I think there's a lot that people can take away from that, no matter what your specific path is.
Absolutely, Jen. Absolutely, gentlemen. Absolutely. As well, I believe everybody is an artist. Ultimately, every single decision you take in life, this is artistic act. This is a creative act. Every time you decide what you're gonna have for breakfast, for lunch, or dinner, you cook or not, or one day you might try. This is creative act. Every time you decide what to wear to go out into the world, even you do this subconsciously, this is creative act. You live in your artistic life. You're walking through as an artist. You don't paint the life with brushes, but you paint the life with your decisions. So every single time, subconsciously or consciously, you participate in a creative act. So ultimately, everybody's an artist. Same, that's a reflection of this higher idea of a creator, of a God. We are a little drops of that reflection. We have a chance in this lifetime, limited chance in this physical vessels, to experience that gift. Creatively taking decisions, creatively choosing, being chosen and choosing back applies for absolutely everyone. Doesn't matter what you do in life.
Yeah.
If everyone's an artist, everything I do, from what I eat to how I dress to the way that I water my plants, is an act of art. Like, what do I do about that?
Hopefully realizing that this is your conscious decision. This is your creative act. Ultimately, doing this consciously, being present, being here and now, as some say, and just know that you are free to participate in your own decisions. I truly believe what you mentioned, Joe, as well, that there is this flow state, which is when it comes in on you, it's almost not like you let go of everything. You just flow and time disappears. Everything goes away. You becoming the best version of yourself, almost like this divine force drops on you, takes over you, and you just channel. You channel sometimes the best results ever. And that happens when you show up again, again, and again. Because of the flow state, you're building a relationship with this force. Sometimes it happens just in the beginning. You discover, experimented something. It did happen like, whoa, how I was able to create that? That's unbelievable. And you try to find the doorways to enter, to return to that state, to return to that place where you found this a kind of metaphysical key from yourself to execute something almost impossible that you, because I had no idea that I'll become an artist, that we're gonna have this conversation, that we're gonna have a gallery and a bunch of exhibitions and blah blah blah. I had no idea that's gonna happen. And I've been chosen once again. Then I realized, oh my god, this is what I want to do with my life. This is why I'm here. I felt like I was doing this for many lives. And I do know how to do that. Sometimes you think you don't, but then you just like take the power back, trust the universe, go also with the flow, but gently correct it's almost like being in the boat, like you're on a little boat, you go, there's a river, right? You're flowing through the river. If you just drop the control, the river gonna, um, control your flow, and you're gonna end up somewhere. It's almost like a Tao. It's a Tao process. But I believe in the gentle act where you can also participate in divine in divine manifestation. I call it a collaboration, a partnership with this invisible force we are part of.
Yeah, it's very Friedrich Nietzsche to me when he said, something, I'm paraphrasing, but life is best seen like it's a work of art, living life like it's a work of art. And I remember as a 16-year-old, right, when we went into lockdown in England, as a consequence of the coronavirus, I remember spending a good few weeks like sketching in pencil and then filling in black marker pen that quote on my wall in my bedroom about living life like a work of art. And as I get older, I think about and try and unpick what that really means and why that really resonates, as it comes up in this conversation. And I think you made a great point, Alex, right? As an artist, you have to be present. Okay, so I'm drawing comparisons here between good art and the great life. You have to be present. You have to be in the here and now in order to create art. You also have to follow inspiration that comes along your way, right? A beautiful image or vision hits you in your imagination and you will try to recreate that in physical reality. But also in life, if something inspires you, you meet somebody and something in you resonates with them, you should follow that. Or if you have some decision you want to make and you're compelled through your gut, it goes beyond rationality, you should follow that inspiration. Art is also beautiful, but not just beautiful, I guess, in terms of everything's all sunshine and rainbows, because art can be quite dark and
Absolutely.
show themes of destruction and pain. But I guess maybe better than beautiful, like we can use emotional intensity. And I think just like in art, in life, you want to feel the emotional spectrum in the best intensity you can. Feel the highs, feel the lows with the same awe and appreciation that you get to go through that journey in that story. And finally, I think in art, I draw in ideas from Alan Watts's lectures when he talks about life being like a dance. But in art, you can't be anticipating the final result in the moment. It's kind of coming back to that being present thing. But like when you're painting each brushstroke on the canvas, you're not thinking about the final image and trying to rush towards that, right? Art is about that process of creation. Just like when you're dancing, you're not thinking about the dance ending. The dance is about the dance, and life is the same way, because we spend so much of our life trying to rush to whatever milestone and always looking forward, always peering over the shoulder of the present moment, as Sam Harris puts it. Whereas life is always happens right now, at the moment of creation, in this present moment, just like it does in art.
Absolutely. 100%. And um, you mentioned something a few words before, is the creative act is not only rainbows and all the shiny things, right? It's also, there's a darkness to it. But I learn over my life to see, I will use this word, beauty in a darkness. And how do you do that? How do you identify the beauty in disturbance, in challenge, in change, and um I had a lot of trials in my life to teach me this lesson, and I'm keep returning to it and keep revisiting the space. Um, step one is realize that as much as you have control on things, in the same time you don't. There is things beyond your control. That's one thing. And when the things happen, when the challenges things happen, is do not look at it as a good or bad. Under this only this way or that way. That's a very box way of seeing the world. But looking at it from the point of experience, human experience is a mystery, is a ultimate gift. To experience the beauty and the dark is ultimate gift. For example, in April of 2020, when pandemic hit it, besides the pandemic, I had a fire in my studio. My first studio where I had a substantial collection of my work. Already hundreds or thousands of hours of my work. Hanging on the walls, everything burned out in less than 30 minutes. I've been inside. It's been midnight. Everything what I could focus on, it's saving my cat and letting my friends know, like, get out of the house, because we're all in danger. Lights went off, the walls were falling, everything was burning. Firemen came through. I've seen my house, my home, my 2 years of my life being burned in fire, and I was losing my shit, to be honest. In that moment, I was losing my shit. So it took me several years to fully recover and heal and think about this process, because it's, I don't recommend anybody go through that. That's dark, to losing your home, to losing work of your life, and your experiments, all the ideas on over 30 original artworks and so on, just in few minutes. It's one of the biggest lessons I ever received, but over the years I learned to see beauty in it. I also learned to face death. Death, nobody want to talk about it. That's a dangerous subject. Everybody want to live. Everybody want to be healthy. Everybody want to be strong and and be like rich and wealthy and all those beautiful things. But there is a beauty to all of those processes. And if we consciously, being present as much as we can, realizing that this experience is here for us to experience different angles and corners of human existence is beautiful thing. Ultimate teachers came through to us so we could talk about it. We could share it in our podcast, write books, or make music, create projects, whatever it is. Ultimately, those experiences back then leads you to next you, to the future you, to the version of yourself, which is hopefully will become better and hopefully will serve the world in the best possible way and serve the others as well.
How do you see beauty exactly in your gallery burning down?
Say again, please.
How do you see beauty in your gallery burning down?
It's extremely challenging, extremely hard. Well, you have to surrender. You also realize, once again, you realize that you don't have control on everything, so you value a present moment more. You value this moment, this day, more than ever before. You value how you spend your time, and you realize that we are quite limited by time, for dimension, so that forces you ultimately to be even more consciously present. That's why I mentioned before, I worry that there's not enough time to execute everything sometimes, Not like I'm worrying, but sometimes like, damn, the day already gone. How come? And it's nice, but I wish there would be more to it. I have to another day, boom, already 2025, almost the end of it. The value which comes in after the challenge and experience is beautiful. The value of life, the value of your, of your cat, dog, of your partner, of your friends, of what you do, how you spend your time, the depth of perception is definitely being magnified in many ways and multiplied because of first you like, oh, okay, like you can be very reckless. I took a lot of reckless decisions in my life. They cool. Being risky is definitely helpful, but sometimes you have to be careful because you are freaking fragile. You can break, and there's times to be risky, be crazy, and there's times to think twice, consider.
Very true. Very true. And yeah, it's an interesting statement, isn't it, to say that there's beauty in darkness. But like, I wonder if it'll like make more sense in your head, Jake, if I put it in a couple of contexts. Like when somebody reads a poem at a funeral, okay, and one of their, maybe it's their best friend or a really close member of their family has passed away, and they read a poem about the fragility of life. In that moment, that's a dark day. Everybody's wearing dark clothing. They're mourning the loss of this person that they'll never, ever see or experience again. But the goosebumps that will go down your spine as they're reading that poem, there's real beauty in that. There's real beauty in that. And it also makes me think of a concept called the sublime, which I think I've mentioned before, Jacob. I don't know if you've heard of this, Alex. I got it from studying the Romantic poets. But the sublime is like all-encompassing, awe-evoking, transcendental beauty in nature, right? But the sublime isn't always necessarily happy. The sublime is often terrifying. So when it was William Wordsworth, I want to say, was writing about being on a small boat in a huge lake, and with all mountains being around him, and it was beautiful, but it was beautiful because it was terrifying, and it was terrifying because it pointed out his insignificance in confrontation with the size of the mountain, and the fact that he could drown in that lake and be consumed by nature, and that nature is this divine force of creation of natural beauty, but it also takes away and it consumes. And I think that is also an element of the sort of beauty we can find in darkness.
I love that. When the time comes, I recommend you to, when the time comes, once again, that's a certain period of time when you might be interested to lay your hands on the subject of death. Everybody, it's terrifying, right? It's very terrifying. And there's this beautiful book exists. It's called Bardot Adol, which is being translated on English. It's actually simply Tibetan Book of Death. So this book describes what happens after you die. Many religions in life, many religions is there which is kind of talk about heaven and hell and these things, and that kind of, what happens when you die. But that book was written, we have no idea when, it's first of all, and it was translated just in the beginning of 20th century. But that book is extremely interesting because it describes states none of the books ever in any religious practices covered was able to touch upon those states. And if there is so much information I want to say, but there is the main message of the book, because it basically guides you through from the moment you die, and it invites you to die consciously, by the way. Consciously, it gives you practical questions that if there's somebody next to you, there is a spots on your physical body which has to be kind of gently tapped into, so you consciously being present with the dying. Why need to die consciously? Why we need to live consciously? So this book believes and teaches us to do not fear. It constantly repeats, don't be afraid. Because at the end, when the transformation happens, when you're going to transform into something else, you're going to face your fears, your greatest fears. And the conscious decision is, it's do not afraid. No fear, whatever happens. Because mind is the one who fears, who terrified by the unknown. If we don't know something, we ultimately want to run away, close ourselves up to, like, be comfortable. That's the easier decision. But can you imagine if you go when the time is right? You like, I mean, time is right. Hopefully never is right, because we all want to live life. But dying consciously and without the fear, it's probably one of the very challenging endeavors anyone can have. So Tibetan
Yeah,
death one day. Like,
I remember reading about Carl Jung's idea of the afternoon of life, which is kind of like when you feel like you've validated your ego in reality and done, let's say, the few bullet points of material like success that most people think of in human life. You get educated in some manner, you get some kind of occupation, you get some kind of place to live, you meet a romantic partner, maybe you start your own family and have children, whatever. Once all those things are taken care of, he said, in that afternoon of life, around maybe middle age, your goal then switches to dying in a appropriate manner. And that sounds bleak, but he said, if death is not a goal, if it's not a center point of the second half of your life, it will catch up with you, and you will die with resentment and with regret. And if it surprises you and just comes across your path unexpected, it'll shake you. Whereas if it is at a forefront, especially in that second half of life, then you can make sure you're at peace with it when it comes, I guess. It's something along those lines.
I think this makes absolutely a lot of sense, and Carl Jung is the man. Definitely
Is the man.
is the man. Like, great teacher, and he's the one who shaped human perception, and there is a lot of gratitude to his work and his life work. And I love one of the very, very last videos was filmed about Carl Jung. I don't exactly recall how old he were, but it's black and white video. He's in his like 80s plus probably. And the interviewer asking him like, so this is like, you probably on the horizon, on the sunset of your life. It's you walk all this, you had this incredible adventure, you had all these experiences, you studied the most controversial questions of human perception and consciousness, and also touch upon subject, the most controversial subject is there's a god, is there something going on when you die? And so Carl Jung take a moment, and then he says, yes, I absolutely believe that there is a God, and I absolutely believe that there is a continuation when you go. And this is not the end. The mind is the trap, fears, thinks, creates stories, ideas, that, this is that. But to see the bigger picture is let go the mind sometimes, let go the logic. And this incredible man, it was incredible hear that you guys, I don't remember the video how it's called, but you definitely can easily find it. One of his last statements. And
I think I know the one you mean. I've listened to it. Yeah, it's fantastic. Jacob, do you have any questions you want to ask, because we're sort of coming towards the end of the conversation and closing out?
I guess I finally wanted to add that I feel like after we die, there's a something. I feel there's this there's a philosopher called it's like Parmenides or something like that, and he says that nothing isn't even a thing. Not like, and if nothing can't exist, then something must. To talk about nothing, you're already treating it like a thing. And let me see. But nothing has no properties, so it can't even be conceived without sneaking a little something. If nothing is literally nothing, then it can't exist. And I feel like that is it. If we go into death with that attitude, I don't know if there is really a reason to be scared. Because I think the only reason you'd be scared is if it's just black and the world, there's no other life. If something is going to happen, then I think that's way, way, way better than if nothing was to happen.
Yeah, I like that. I like the way you put that for sure, Jake.
I think, gentlemen, we have to embrace the mystery. You know, that actually we know, but we don't know anything at the same time. The old genius
Alex,
in the world said that. So
before we say goodbye to everyone, we'll give you one last opportunity. If there's anything you wish to say to me, to Jacob, to the people listening at home, a message you'd like to give out to the world that will be saved at the end of this conversation, the floor is yours.
well, first of all, appreciate both of you for what you do, for guiding this podcast. Excellent, guys. Keep opening people's minds, you know, and no fear. No fear of any endeavors you might have. So I think realizing the have an attempt, the try to realize a great mystery which is surrounds us is ultimate gift that we all have here and now. Realizing that we are participating in divine process, divine journey, that we are little drops of something incredible going on. Now, this is ultimately a gift. Being grateful for what you have, what's now and what's to come. Trust, surrender, and do what you love the most you only can. Be the best version of yourself by doing the best you can, and also relax. Go to nature, take a hike, enjoy. So,
Beautiful.
If people want to find out more about you, Alex, where should they go?
easily Instagram. This is could be a place. Aliume Art, my handle, Alex Aliume. In search, Alex is ALEX and or put it www.aliumeart.com. You know, that's my official website. Simply.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Go check Alex's art out.